Thanks for staying with us. So there's another topic that is also disheartening that we're going to talk about right now. It's teenagers and drug abuse and a drug addiction. We saw a video recently, I think on some of the blogs, about possibly a father being beat up by his son. Now, we can't verify these stories, but these things always come on social media, but we're referring to it as we're just taking it as a reference point. So there's a story about a man being beaten up by his son, whose siblings had complained that that's how he always beat up their parents. He's addicted to drugs, and when they get to a certain high, they don't listen to anybody. And many of us have actually experienced this, especially parents who are from, I would say probably even the middle class. They always kind of just hide these things. And all Nigerians in general actually have experienced where teenagers get to a certain level and they're totally unreachable, where they've gotten into drug abuse and it's difficult for you to stem that. So our conversation really, how do we help parents who are right now as we speak being beaten up by their children who are drug addicts? That's the conversation. Please call us on 081-270-53687, 091. The other numbers on your screen, and you can call us. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweets. This is not an easy thing because some of us have had a bit of experience where you hear stories of family members that have experienced this. Many people don't like to talk about this. They keep it hush-hush. Yeah. They manage it. It's embarrassing. And many parents know that they should seek help, but they're so scared of seeking help because they don't want the word to get out. So they kind of they don't want to be judged. So they kind of just manage it in our home. How do we begin to start this conversation on child abuse, abusing the parents, or parental abuse by kids?
I think we should start by discussing dealing with drug addiction. That's a...
Or the pandemic that it has become.
Getting government putting enough awareness, NGOs going into providing facilities to help drug addicts. Every time I think about it, we would always remember Tony Rapple's foundation that has been able to reform people. There are many drug addicts that would really want to be reformed, but they just don't have access to the know-how of how to get out of that space. They got trapped, maybe they were introduced to it by friends, peer pressure, whatever it is. These people are in actual fact victims, in most cases, of the gang that are pushing the drugs around. And the byproduct is this unruly behavior. Very, very shocking, horrific video of a full-grown young guy beating up his father, obviously under the influence. That will not happen if we're able to solve the real problem, which is the drug problem. So what are the ways we can solve drug problem? How can we ensure there are timely interventions, places where family can go and have a safe space? Hospitals, people don't go to the psychiatric hospitals, sadly, not as many as should, but I feel that we should go back to showing videos. Auntie Annie has this horrible picture that I feel if you show that picture to younger people before they get into drugs, like teenagers, before they even like 13, 12, 14, it might scare them not into trying it. We need to go back into educating people from secondary school. Maya recounted when she watched videos of people that had horrific drug experience. I recall those videos too. They came to our schools. NGOs came to the schools, show us the video. We all sat down, we watched the video, we're like, hey, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to drink. Because those videos connected with us, we need to go back into that phase. Art preserves culture, and art changes culture. And what we see in our movie industry now is glorifying of drug abuse. We see it and it's like it's a norm. So we need to go back there.
Glorify it?
Our industry, go to music. On every music video, it's huge
cool.
puffs. It's cool. You are not cool if you have not experimented. So we need to go back to those places and start promoting and asking them to support.
The angle you're taking, Tokwe, because I was going to focus a bit on the beating up, but you see, there's so much. The beating is a
byproduct.
It's a byproduct
of the real
problem.
Yeah.
So you're right. Let's focus on this drug abuse on teenagers.
So I was having a conversation recently with a friend, and I was saying that I'm trying in my head I haven't sorted it out yet, but I'm trying to have conversations with my children on how they resolve painful emotions. So if somebody tells you no, rejection, somebody says, no, you're not having this, what do you do? Those are deep conversations that we don't have, because this is part of my line somehow. And I realize that the person who is beaten, you are seeing the beating in the surface. The person who has taken to drugs is running away from a painful emotion. Is running away from frustration that has been deeply rooted. It could be from the time he was a child, he was being bottled, he regressed, he kept pushing it down and pushing it down. It became regressive. And so when he jumped into drugs, when he's high, he now has to lash out to the person he has a deep frustration or resentment against. So growing up, we had a neighbor at the time whose son will come home from school and beat him up. He did it the first time, he did it second, and this man was rich. First time, second time, the man went, called police, they bundled him, they arrested him. He came back after a few days, he found drugs. Then it wasn't even drugs, it was smoking, you go. Once he's high like this, he starts beating his father. And then they had to bundle him to, Delta State, they had to bundle him to Lagos and checked him into a rehab, a proper rehab. I think, I don't know the name right now, but a proper rehab in Lagos State. Checked him in there. He was there for 6 months. He was there with proper medical care. When they started having conversations, he had to expose where the root of the problem. He had to expose how, as a child, he witnessed his father molesting the sisters. He had to expose a lot of things. And so, because he didn't have an outlet, when he now found drugs, that was the end result. Yes, exactly what was in his mind. So, when people are not able to manage painful emotions, they are not able to talk about it, they are not allowed to express. Even as children, I'm very weary when my child is quiet and boning and not talking to anybody. I get afraid because
red flag.
Yes, I'm asking, what happened? What happened? Why are you so moody? What's happening? This is not the age where you are supposed to be moody. This is your play age. You know, where you're always talking to the mirror, talking to yourself, playing and disturbing everybody. That's the age. But when you start getting to that age where you now sit down and you are brooding, I am worried. So we need to go back to the crux. Do you know your children? Do you ask them questions? When they report something has happened to them that has hurt them emotionally, do you just dismiss it and stand up and move on? And allow it to fester? Because the truth of the matter is, if you do not learn as a young person, where your brain is still developing, to manage rejection painfully, because the life can hit you basketballs, anything can happen to you. And if unfortunately you happen to find drugs, that is it, you're gone.
You know, I need to cut out that clip and share it, because it's really important. It's something parents need to really take in, because handling those emotions help young people. And from what you're saying, I was just remembering when I was growing up, I know somebody who fell into drugs and he was angry. He was angry at his siblings. He just felt that he got the shorter end of everything in the house.
Wow.
And that was not true. He was the most handsome, the most accepted, the most loving, the most jovial. But
he didn't feel that way.
He didn't feel that way. Everybody
see it.
loved him. And drugs was his only outlet.
Yeah.
And these were drugs that he would beat people up. You just wake up one day and realize the TV is gone. He has sold it. He has sold everything.
So when they say, let's Auntie.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not only if you have emotional repression
Poverty.
that
Poverty.
that you go into drugs.
Yes.
Different things make different people go into. Peer pressure is another very important factor.
True.
My friend is taking drugs, so me too.
I want
to take. Now,
None of them look cool doing it.
there's this syndicate that NDLA just uncovered.
Yes.
This Imomi Gio in Port Harcourt with these two very flashy influencers who, and his drugs.
Hell.
They I think it was tramadol.
Yeah.
That
Peer pressure and cash. Yeah.
And you know, it's what people see is the glam. Nobody has seen the pain that they have put families through. Because those people, for that business to thrive, they must make sure you take drugs. So they're going to target the young kids. Now, what has happened, like in Lagos, I will only talk about Lagos because it's Lagos I live. I don't really go anywhere else because I'm afraid. But, you know now.
That's the covers. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, but in Lagos, I've noticed this pandemic of young kids taking these drugs. Now, a few years ago, I'm going to use my own self as an example. A few years ago, outside, we used to have green outside the shrine, with trees and everything. If I see you sitting out there, I would just drive you away. Now, I see some people, they sit, some young boys, they're sitting outside. Now, these are boys who, they grew up.
You saw them growing
So you
up.
saw them
They
grow.
were kids.
You saw
They
them.
are now young boys. They are now maybe in their 20s.
20s, yeah.
You know? So that Shrine is 23 years old. That means they were not even born
Yes.
when...
Yeah.
But they have grown up and they have been indoctrinated by some people. Some people have brought drugs to them. And now... So, you know, every day I will chase them away. I will chase them. I will come down. I will run. Don't say... When I go...
They come back.
When
When they say the
I
cars
chase them,
drive out.
once I not drive out, drive inside the compound. If I come out 5 minutes later, they are back there.
Hey.
So I now went to them. I said, because if I go to police, I'm not solving your problem.
Yes.
Tell me, what can I do to solve your problem? Some of them said they wanted jobs. One now said, yes, just use me. Use me. I will drive everybody away from here. But somebody had told me that that's one.
Is the chief.
Was the one selling.
I said, oh, yeah, bring this bag. I opened his bag. Hey!
Oríṣiríṣi concussion.
I said, and he's a young kid.
Yeah.
So I went to this NGO that I know. I said, look, I want to help these boys. I don't want to take them to police.
What do you...
It might not even be...
Counterproductive if they get to the police station.
It's
when they
counterproductive
get
because
they'll mix
Yeah.
with other criminals.
They need reform.
Yeah.
Reformation.
Exactly.
They need rehabilitation.
I'm not powerful enough
Rehabilitation.
to, or I'm rich enough to, but I can ask people. So I've started asking people.
So that's what we need to begin
what
to
can I
do,
do
YK. You know, because
about these boys?
peer pressure is
we
real.
should go. Yeah. So there's a case of there's a place of peer pressure. There's a place of trauma, which BC highlighted, and there's a place of, you know, there are normal being lonely. Being lonely, people don't understand that we are not created to be alone. And in most cases, people cannot deal with the thoughts that go through their mind when they're alone. So when people are lonely, they tend to find ways to cope with their loneliness. I don't have friends, or I'm not friendly, or people I don't have friends in my class. It's okay. We need to help children. And then when they become teenagers, they need to have companionship. Many times, a lot of parents struggle with understanding their teenagers, and we don't deal with them, so we leave them. But that's the time where we need to be more in their faces, because
their
that's
face, so.
Perpetually. I was just lucky to escape getting into drugs, because my parents really, really shielded me, but I was largely alone. So it was just a case of I did not have anyone that could influence me into it.
You did not meet a bad person.
Bad person, and there was a lot of prayer. But I grew up in an area where drugs was very prevalent. And it was, in Malto Estate, they were smoking weed every corner. Like, I know the smell of weed from when I was like 15. So, like, I could know that there's something going on there. Don't go there. But I saw when I got married, I went back home and I saw children I grew up with. They had become
Addict.
addict, and they were
Mini lords.
they became
Mini lords.
kingpins. Like somebody was bringing children, and I saw this boy. He was running there, and I'm like, I know this boy. Like we grew up here, and now you are the one stopping trailer to collect money. The money you will use a few seconds later to smoke or to take drugs. We need to understand that there is a major pandemic going on with the drug in the drug world, and it is not a punitive measure that will solve the problem. We need to make access to what do you call those stuff? Rehabilitation available to people. Yeah. Then the place of therapy. People don't talk early enough
about their issues.
People have issues and they will bottle it up. You don't share your problems. You don't share did I even just, I think maybe I noticed something happened in my house yesterday. I called almost all my friends. I was like, my son did this, so, and everybody was like, it's not a bad thing, Mr. Bede, this is what happened, this is what happened, and everybody was telling me, this is what you should do, this is how you should handle it. Even someone said that, have you spoken to him about it? When we bottle up our problems, thinking like we can hide it, things get worse. Early enough, seek consultation. Quickly, go to the hospital.
There's this part of poverty, and it's important for us to talk about it because there's always an assumption that, once you're poor, all the problems of the world is in your head, and that's what makes you a drug addict. But you see, we found that
wealthy
some poor people that live, and I think Nima always says that poverty is just a temporary state, or is a what there's a phrase she uses. Is a state you are in that you can always get out of. Because people make it look as if, oh, there's poverty in the land, and that's why these people are in trouble. Because that community you say you went back to now, somebody could say, oh, it's because the person wasn't educated, or the person that was left in this community. That's what, anything could have happened. But can we truly equate poverty to drug abuse?
Nope, because most drug addicts are rich. You need money to feel that habit.
Yeah.
Very true.
They're quite
I know
expensive.
No, leave those.
The high level.
No,
I know one very
there's
rich guy.
grade now.
I know one very rich guy.
There's grade.
I know one very rich guy. We all know him here. That was on drugs.
Oh.
They used to meet him in the kidney.
Yeah, I don't know him.
He was with the poor, and I will tell you after.
We know him. Let's.
He was with his father rich everything. Yeah, but me and you, we cannot afford that drug. He was taking.
Never. So the thing is, you can't equate it, right? What I see is a lot of young people are not actively engaged in their mind. And unfortunately for us, this era of social media and gadgets up and down, we are letting a lot of things slide. At the time we were growing up, by the time you come back from school, you go and fetch water. You go and ride bicycle. You go and play tire. You go and do this. By the time you get home, you are tired, you are exhausted, you will sleep till the next day.
Our children.
Right? Now, anytime you see our kids, they have gadgets on. They are watching things. That's another one form of addiction that is there. They are not productive. They are not thinking. They are not using their hands. They are not doing sports. They are not doing anything. Their minds are not opening. They are not active in the mind. And so it's easy for them to find a way to just get this, because what they get from using the gadgets, it's like what's this thing? Endorphins, oxytocin. That's what they get, that joy. That's what it gives them. Then when they don't have it and they resort to drug, maybe they test it, like you mentioned, peer pressure, they take it 1 time, 2 times, they get addicted to it. They want to always be in that state. But we need to make our children and young people understand that you cannot always be in a high state. We need to be very careful. All this positive is good to be positive, but things will weigh you down. All through the weekend, I was weighed down. Auntie, so I was supposed to have classes where I would teach positivity and all those things that I not fit talk for the class because I was feeling down because of what happened to me. So they need to see these emotions and find ways to handle the emotions. We need to give them good practices. At the time we were growing up, they put us in church, right? We would go for this service, we'll go for that service. It looks like we were wasting our time, but those were some foundations that helped us. Even when we went to school and our parents were not there, we had a fear of, if I offend my father or my mother, or I offend God, there was a foundation that saved us. We are not grounding our children in those foundations because as much as we were grounded, we need to find something for them. So if you're not big on religion, your children at an early age must learn how to meditate. When they are feeling down, they should sit down, take a deep breath. You must teach, let it become a part of them. So that when life comes, whatever life throws at them, they will know that this too shall pass. And it's one of those days. I had a family member, a young guy, who, like the sort of example you gave, where he felt he was different in the house. He felt he was not as loved as his elder brother. He felt he was, abandoned. And they all went to the same schools. They had the same food. They had the same upbringing. In the parents' mind, they didn't understand why this boy is feeling different. But in his mind, he felt like he was neglected because he was, he was different. He was neglected because of other things. When they started having conversations with him, they realized that the way I shouted at this person was the way I shouted at you. Why are you processing your own differently? So they could have found it if they had listened to him as a young boy, understood that their emotions were different. They had 2 different temperaments. One was an optimist who, after shouting at him, he would carry his bag and go and read his book. The other person was a pessimist. When after you shout at him, it will take him months
before he will get
to forget. We must understand our young people.
But you see, okay, as much as I know we're focusing a bit on drugs today, and maybe at some point we'll also discuss people who actually beat up their parents, not because of drug issues. There are other issues. They have
angry with their parents.
Anger.
You beat me all my life, so now I will give you back.
So no, yes, that is there. Others will say your friends have bought a house, they bought a car, you have not. So there are different reasons, but we'll come to that. I mean, this is a conversation for a whole different show. But this one of peer pressure, I was going to share my own story of peer pressure because I had peer pressure. But exactly, and maybe I didn't want to come back to you because you would spend a lot of time, but I wanted to see how was I able to not allow peer pressure? Because I can't even explain it. I know that when I was growing up, when you used to hang out with your friends' party, not even friends' party, maybe my parents or my uncles come around their parties, and it was so cool to see them smoke in air conditioning. There's something about AC and air conditioner.
And smoking.
Smoke just, it's just cool, and everywhere is just nice. As a young person, I used to think, this is such a cool experience. So the moment myself and my sister entered America like this, experiment number one, we went to go and buy Benson and Hedges. We must now, there's no mommy, there's no daddy, there's no body, it was just us.
You must try.
We entered this, we went to go and get Benson, I can't remember what it was. And this thing, we put on the air conditioner and wanted to feel the experience. But we were smart, at least I was smart enough.
To pull yourself.
To pull myself, this is not why I came here. I didn't come here for this. But you see, so I can't say, is it parenting, is it what I was told? But there was some kind of fear in me that, hey, your parents must not see you doing this.
It's what you've been taught.
Yes.
Even for me, something happened to me. I think it was I didn't want to, after being on the show, somebody was offering, like, let me take you to Dubai. Me, married woman. I say, even when I was a babe on the streets of Lagos as a model, they did not use Dubai to sleep with me. I say, so you cannot come and use at this stage of my life. Because as a model, it was in our faces every day. Everywhere. They'd be like, I just traveled, I bought this fancy gold, I bought this fancy phone. So it was in our faces, and the temptation then was to do Aristo or sleep around and get more money. But what pulled us back, what pulled me back, what pulled in our own cases back was because there was a lot of parental support, a lot of parental interaction early. And then we saw discipline at home.
So they beat us. So
there was discipline.
So it wasn't talking, because my own parents are not talking. It was beating and fear.
No, my parents were talking, no.
Coach, that's your own parents.
Beats me,
but today, the coaches will tell you don't beat. Because they don't cause fear. Because that fear carried me. When I got around, I knew that I couldn't do it.
My fear was not beating. The fear was from the conversation. So let me tell you what the fear was. The fear was the fear was not about the beating. It was the fact that you are going to lose in your future. All your ambitions will not come to pass. People will embarrass you. So it was the fear of embarrassment. My parents made me feel like if you now see the one you really want to marry, you now go to the person's house. The uncle now comes out. The uncle is the one that was the one you were. It was my mommy concocted different stories, different scenarios in my head. So every time a man comes to me with something luxurious, I'm like,
which of the scenarios?
Before I now want to marry, you will not be the father of the person. No, you will not be the one to taint my future. So that worked for me.
Training a girl child in my place was like, they try you. If you like, go embarrass yourself.
We have sent you to school.
I'm telling you, we don't even know if it's a waste set. We are just there. If you like, go and bring shame. If you like, go and bring shame. That's it. So I had sense on time. I knew I could not bring embarrassment to my father. In fact, when people tell me that if you get pregnant and you go home, what will happen? I said, the way my father will beat me, I will lose the baby. I don't want to subject myself to that torture. So that fear, you have to understand the young people that God had given to you to take care of, has given to you to take care of, right? You have to understand there are people, as much as I don't advocate beating and I don't beat, I still beat. I blend it. I know the one I talk to, that before I finish talking, she's already crying. I know the one that I'm talking to, he's looking at me like this. I go and wear short knicker and I carry my cane. So we have to blend it because the two of them must work together, yes. And everybody's personality. So we need to study our children and understand their personality. I have one in my house where after telling her, off and everything, she brushes off and goes to carry her book and she's doing other things. I have the one that when I finish talking to him, 3 days, he's still sulking and bringing up the issue. Yes, when I do something, say, hey, mommy, you see now, this is what I did. You say, so I have different ways to handle those different children. Gone are the days where you use one blanket to say all of them are my children. They fed from the same breast. I will give them the same treatment. You can no longer do that now. And please, let's engage our young ones. During this long holiday, I'm already thinking of one is going to do PA. One is going to be sorting clothes. One is going to be sorting hair. And I will pay them for that work.
Tomorrow is the last day in school. I didn't want to take care. I said,
no, they go work.
Just stay in the house. one of my daughters said, no, mommy, I want to go to school because when I'm home, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
Engage
I'm
her.
bored. And I thought to myself, that's so true. There's nothing to
Engage
do.
her.
Engage. Find something for you
They
to
wash
do.
clothes, you pay them. Just
But you know,
comments.
I wanted to even, because YK hasn't said anything in a while, and she's raised a full-grown adult. And she's a
The one
grandma.
that has the
She has collected
report card.
certificates.
we are still
To
waiting.
talk. We are still waiting for our report card.
And Made is such an amazing young man, you know. So and Rolary too, very, very, you know, but he's not a young man. He's not a full-grown adult. She's about to
head
get
is
married,
cool.
you know. And I'm just wondering, how did they do it? Because this is.
Okay, that's true.
Yes,
Yeah,
I always think about
it.
it. We talk about
because Fela was
the way
known.
they say.
They said, you can help us tell us the truth. They said that Fela was very, very into those things.
Randy.
Very, very randy and also into those things. So children growing up in those things.
Fela was totally against hard drugs. He was totally against hard drugs. He never denied it. And he made sure we all knew. My mother used to show us films. You know, she would put us in front of the TV, watch people on hard drugs. So in case you want to go that way,
This is your end.
this is how you will be. So you too, you will borrow yourself brain, as Obiaju likes to say, and then you will.
Right.
But
Growing up in that circle, why do you think that at some point you see pressure and you want to get engaged in those things?
I think they also get to see a lot of the horrible sides of it.
Let me go ahead, Wike.
you see, I can't say that. Well, the truth of the matter, I remember my father showing me a jar of cocaine and telling me, never touch this. And it was like this, never touch it. If you touch it, your brain will... And the way he spoke to me and told me about it, myself, I didn't want to because it stuck in my brain.
Right.
Could it be because you were a girl? Because a boy would touch it.
No, her brothers didn't. Her brothers, Femi doesn't even drink.
At least.
You know, so it's quite interesting. So could you now therefore say, is it possible that you can actually have peer pressure? I mean, I'm trying to find a way to see how somebody like that can actually come out without drinking, without using drugs, but yet you come in, you were raised in the community where you were seeing different people being so free and liberal with what they want to do.
In my own case, I was not only seeing it outside, it was inside. It was happening inside. So for me, I think what it did for my brain was that I knew what not to accept in life. But for my other people, it didn't work like that for them. So we all had different outcomes. So I saw the negatives and I said, never, this is not the life that I want. I was able to tell. And also, it could also be my destiny. Because the truth of the matter is, we like to test fate. Don't test fate. You don't know what your destiny is. You don't know what you carry. For some people, two of you will go through. No. Wait now. Because we came from the same family now. We all turned out different. We all saw the same things. I even saw worse because I was the first child. But we all turned out different. So it could be. And they're saying, why don't you avoid it as a parent so that you don't test your children's faith? You don't know the one that will fall in. If you play your part to protect them as a parent should, even if they fall in outside, they will find their way back. And even if they don't find their way back, you will know that as a parent you did your best. But if you bring it in, you have to be held responsible. Even God will hold you responsible. I gave you young people, young souls to raise, and you were raising them in this atmosphere.
Let me quickly just say one thing before, because I know we're almost out of time. There's a part that we also need to talk about. When our parents beat us, we knew they were beating us out of anger. We could feel their frustration. One of the things that I have learned, even when I try to discipline my children, is that I don't beat immediately you do that thing. I will not, because I don't want to vent. Something happened in my house yesterday morning. Yes, I've told him, I said, what you did, I'm very disappointed. You will get punished for it. I'm just waiting. This morning, the guy reminded him, I said, don't think I forgot what you did yesterday. You are attending the school party tomorrow. You went for first sport day yesterday. It doesn't mean I've forgotten. When I decide to address it, we will sit down, have a long talk. If we will decide the punishment, if it is a beating punishment, I'm still studying if beating is going to make any difference, or it is a abstinence from the things you love punishment. But have that conversation so that they understand You are doing it from a place of love. You want the best for them. And those are things that are important in shaping how a child will behave in future. I know that the talk of parents being beaten is a topic we shelved a bit for today. But many of it is also from the fact that a lot of children resent their parents a lot. And because the parents did not communicate the sacrifices they were making for their child, each of those children at the time. So they didn't know.
A lot of these parents also beat up their own children. No? If you ask,
fathers.
Yes, their own fathers.
They
if
sow
you
the
ask
seed.
them, sometimes it's karma.
That's another angle. We'll talk about beating parents maybe another day. Mr. Gbenga Ademujimi was saying that one of the major issues is regulations of musical videos. Elders engaging in alcohol and drug abuse. So musical videos, whether we like it or not, need strong regulation.
Yeah.
But see, I mean, when I was the director in charge of TV and the programs at TVC, we used to vet, and I'm sure the TVC still does, they vet every single program. But then there was a bit of liberty in content going to cable. Because then there was hardly no regulation. There was hardly no regulation then. But for terrestrial, you dare not. So we have to cut out all the dancing naked and everything to put it on terrestrial. But cable at the time, so I don't know what the regulations are concerning cable TV right now, but it's like we need stiffer regulations to stop. But you see, people also have freedom of expression. So how do we now draw the line between
train your child?
See, I will go, like, when I was growing up, when my daughter was growing up, not me, when I was growing up, we didn't even have anything. TV started at 5, and by 11, they don't close. You are going to sleep by 8. So you have watched 1 hour before it's time to sleep. So we didn't have TV. So, and it was black and white. I'm sure none of you saw black and white.
I saw black and white.
I just wanted to pull your legs. Anyway, my daughter, at that time we had cable TV, you know. But then they didn't have Cartoon Network or Cartoon Channel. So cartoon was only from a certain time to a certain time. So she now got to read. Now today, your own children is 24 hours cartoon.
Yes, sir.
24 hours. And my daughter is like, my own children are not going to watch cartoon because I didn't watch cartoon for 24 hours. And mommy, you keep letting these children watch. In Nigeria, in England, they don't even get to. Maybe they get an hour. I should be sitting with them. YouTube. Hey.
Let me take this call, our final caller. Good morning, are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Go ahead, please. You're live, Bookie.
Okay, I'd just like to say you've made a very, very lovely contribution so far. And I really agree with all the ladies. Sitting down to have a discussion is very important. Showing them videos of the effect of drug abuse is also very important. I think mothers should really take this seriously. The whole idea of spanking every time you do something is really not helpful. But when you sit them down, explain why it is wrong. It's very important, and we should always focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bookie.
Amazing.
We have to wrap up. Any messages we have to take?
This person is like me, September Production, said, I grew up with a father that smoked and he made me hate the smell of cigar or any kind of smoke. I remember when some people ask me, some of the things you tried as a young person, I would say, have you ever tried smoking? I say, no. They're like, you? You did not try smoking? And I say, no. I still have not tried it. Bring lie detector test. I will take it. I never tried it. And I don't know how it just happened that because he's still an active smoker, I hated it. You know, but it may not work like that for all your children. So I think parents need to do a lot for their young ones and also ensure you know their friends and know them well. So don't do selective picking of friendship. Know your friend, know them to their homes, know their parents so that you can tell what company.
Can I read a message from Antnam? Antnam says, I've not seen any music video where hard drugs were being used or promoted. I watched horrible movies as an underage. It didn't make me act bad. Let's stop the excuses. He also says, why would you resent your own parents? Stop madness.
That's another point. We all watch movies.
Yes,
we watch Van Damme. We watch Steven Spielberg movies that he produced. Okay, that one is horror. But there are action movies, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, where they are dealing with drug abuse. So
you know that
movies might be right.
Glamorize drinking every evening. My kids notice that. Why do they always drink every? I said, but you see me. Do I drink? Do I come home every day and take a bottle to drink every evening? But you see, when you watch movies, that's what it looks like.
We have to wrap up. I think this is just part A of this conversation. Unfortunately, that's all we can take